So what does it actually mean for a project to be green? We hear that word thrown around all the time, right? But it's so much more than just sticking some solar panels on a roof. Today, we're going to dig into what it really takes to run a sustainable project. And I mean really looking at the impact, from the very first blueprint to the final day of work.
You know, when you hear green project, your mind probably jumps to the obvious stuff, like recycling bins or electric vehicles. And yeah, that's part of it, for sure. But those things are just the tip of the iceberg. Real sustainability isn't something you just bolt on at the end. It's baked into the DNA of a project, influencing every single decision along the way.
Okay, so let's get on the same page. When we talk about planet impacts, we're talking about the total ripple effect a project has on the world around it. And that means everything. The soil, the atmosphere, the water, all the plants and animals. It's the whole environmental footprint, not just one or two pieces of the puzzle.
To really get a feel for this, we're going to follow a project through its entire life. Think of it like a story. By walking through 4 main stages, we'll see exactly where those environmental challenges pop up. And more importantly, how a sustainable mindset offers a better way to handle them every single time.
Every single project, and I mean every single one, starts with movement. You've got to get your people, your equipment, and all your materials from point A to point B. So our first stop is figuring out how to do all that without creating a huge carbon footprint before you've even broken ground.
The very first strategy is a total game changer, and it's called local procurement. It's a fancy term for a really simple, powerful idea. Just buy your stuff from suppliers who are nearby. It sounds almost too easy, but trust me, making this one choice starts a chain reaction of positive effects.
And here is that chain reaction I was talking about. Right off the bat, when you buy a local, you slash your transportation costs and all the emissions that come with it. Boom. But on top of that, you're pumping money directly into the community you're working in. And because things don't have to travel as far, you get them faster, which means you don't need to keep a giant, expensive warehouse full of stuff. It's a win-win-win.
You know, this really gets to the heart of a major mindset shift.
The old way of thinking about logistics is all about one question. What's the absolute fastest and cheapest way to get this here? And that usually means planes and tons of plastic wrap. But sustainable logistics asks a much better question. What's the best way for the planet and the project? And suddenly, your answers change. You start looking at lower impact options like trains or ships. You use packaging that can be sent back and used again. And you buy in bulk to cut down on trips.
All right, so we've got our materials on site. Now what? Well, you got to power the whole thing, right? This is where we shift from thinking about the impact of moving things to the impact of actually doing things. Running the machines, keeping the lights on, this is where the energy footprint of a project can get really, really big. And when you talk about energy, you have to talk about greenhouse gas emissions. Now, the key thing to get here is that this isn't just about your electricity bill. It is a full life calculation. It includes the emissions from getting materials to the site, from running the project itself, and even from how the thing you build is used and eventually thrown away years from now. It's the whole shebang.
So how in the world do you tackle something that big? Well, you do it strategically. Step 1, you measure it. You can't manage what you don't measure, so you track everything. Then, you get clever with your design so you're just emitting less from the get-go. After that, you go hard on renewables, solar, wind, whatever you can get. And for that little bit that's left over that you just can't avoid, that's when you bring in carbon offsets to balance the books.
I mean, it's obvious that using renewables is good for the project's carbon footprint, but check this out. The benefits can go way beyond your own fence line. There's this incredible idea called a clean energy return. Basically, if your project makes more clean energy than it uses, you can send that extra power back to the local grid. Think about that. Your project isn't just sustainable, it's actually helping power the community around it. That's not just doing less harm, that's actively doing good.
Okay, so we've talked about transport and energy, which can sometimes feel a little invisible. Now we're talking about the physical footprint, the dirt, the water, the air. This is all about the project's direct, hands-on relationship with the environment it's built in. It's about taking care of your immediate neighborhood.
So what is it we're actually trying to protect here? It comes down to this: biological diversity. And this isn't just about saving a few cute animals. It's about the mind-boggling web of life, from the tiniest microbe in the soil to the biggest trees and animals, that all work together to keep our planet healthy and humming. That's the real treasure we need to look after.
This is where you can really see the difference between just reacting to problems and being truly proactive. Instead of waiting for soil to wash away and then trying to fix it, you build protective barriers around your site from day one. Instead of dealing with the contaminated water scare, you design and build a wastewater treatment system from the very start. For every potential risk, there's a smart, sustainable practice that stops it from ever becoming a problem.
But what if we could be even more ambitious? What if the goal wasn't just to do no harm, or even to have zero impact? This is where things get really exciting. The goal can be to have a net positive impact. This means your project actually gives back to the environment more than it takes. You do that by actively restoring ecosystems, by preserving habitats, and by leaving the local environment measurably healthier than when you started.
And that brings us to the last and maybe most important stage, thinking about the long game. What happens years from now, after the project is done? Everything we build leaves behind a legacy of stuff, and managing the entire life of that stuff is the final crucial piece of the sustainability puzzle.
The answer lies in a huge shift in thinking, away from our typical take, make, and throw away system and towards something called a circular economy. In a circular system, there is no away. The whole idea of waste is designed out of the system from the very beginning. Materials are meant to be used and then repaired, reused, or recycled into something new. It's a closed loop.
I love this quote from the source material. It's so simple, but it says everything. It's about changing how we think about the word disposal. Before we toss anything, we have to ask, is this thing really at the end of its life? Getting rid of something shouldn't be the easy default option. It should be the absolute last resort.
And this right here, this ties it all together. This is the core principle. Deep, real sustainability isn't just a cleanup job at the end. It means you are thinking about the end right at the beginning. The cost, the logistics, the environmental impact of how you'll get rid of something, that has to be part of the plan from day one, right there in the business case next to everything else.
So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. What if this was just how we did things? What if every building, every phone, every project had to plan for its own end right from its beginning? How would that completely change the world we design, and the world we build, and the world we live in? Thanks for watching.